Your higher self is one of the most potent energies that there is. We often want to work with gods and angels and other spirits instead, but our higher self is what's needed to connect to those energies. Gods, angels, and Orisha, for example, are tools that we use to direct the actions of our higher self. Not taking care of it can cause us to misuse and misinterpret the messages of those tools. Proper cleansing and refreshing of the higher self is a way to stay connected to its guidance so you can be in alignment with your personal destiny. A regular head cleanse is one way to honor your higher self. For this cleanse, you will need 1 quart of goat's milk, 1 quart of almond milk, 1 quart of coconut milk, 1 quart of river water, and a small piece of black soap. Mix all the ingredients in a large container and allow the black soap to liquefy. Leave this mixture in moonlight overnight. Wash your head the next sunrise and cover your head with a white cloth for the rest of the day. To learn more about spiritual cleansing, go to saduluhouse.com/events to register for the online live webinar February 8th from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern.
You are now in the realm of enlightenment and transformation.
Welcome to Chief Speaks.
All music performed and produced by Yu.
Enlightenment comes from allowing yourself to journey through the dark shadow of death, the primordial abyss of wisdom's waters. For it is the treasures and mysteries that lie waiting in the dark that transform us and propel us to a new enlightened state. One should never aspire to live in the light nor the dark, but should journey between the two in order to evolve the overall reality into a self-actualized creation. Knowledge is your light, as wisdom is your darkness. The bold interplay of the two in your life leads you to an enlightened understanding of yourself and the universe you've created. Male is your enlightenment, female is your transformation, child is your evolution. Woman, accept the light into your darkness, so it may enlighten you. Man, go bring your light boldly into the darkness, so that it may transform you. Enlightenment and transformation.
I love you so much because you just don't know what you've just done for me. Thank you so much.
Wow. Okay. This is like the best call I've had in ages on BTR.
So this show was meant for me to be able to hear today, and I'm so thankful.
That's his home.
Therefore, now a new pathway has now been cut in order to get to the Almighty, where there may not have been one. So the communication with them, if they have enough power and strength to talk to us, the communication will be very clear.
That's one of the reasons I don't get into the current events thing too much, because it starts to become a perpetual alarm clock that we just keep hitting snooze on. I speak to the ascended masters, quote unquote. I talk about spiritual stuff, but I also speak about some very practical, we can do today things.
Be as natural as you can be with your spiritual. You can't always go by your feelings, because your feelings are corrupted. Your feelings are just as corrupted as everything else, your chakras and everything else. You got to know what's beyond you, and that's why we have elders. We can't do everything. You can't get everything out of books or weekend certification. You can have the most powerful, ancient, oldest, most, as far as you know, truthful tradition in your hands, and if you still have a dirty spirit, you're not going to get anything out of it. You're not going to learn anything. You're not actually going to grow. I try to teach in a way where I make myself obsolete. That's always been my goal, to make myself obsolete.
I really wanted to, kind of big you up. I think you're awesome.
There's a lot of elders out here right now that want to know what's going on. They're not getting on Twitter and stuff like that, but they want to be up on the new stuff. Sit down and have some conversations with them. It's not always about hearing their story. It's also about being news reporters for them and letting them know, like, yeah, this is what's happening right now. They may tell you something about what happened in Charleston that you couldn't even. Your spirituality has to create sane spiritual family. Okay, and that family exists first inside of you. You have to express the different expressions of that rainbow coalition of spirits inside of you first. Okay, don't let communities hijack that rainbow. See, the problem is when we come into the conscious community, the dudes are doing the same thing that the women are doing.
I just want to say that I really enjoy your show every Sunday, and my friend and I call it going to church. When we call him, we'll be like, "You going to church?" And I'm like, where have y'all been at?
God cannot go against its own truth. So anytime you have an inkling that God is going against its own truth, then God is no longer behaving as God. So therefore the spiritual community doesn't recognize God. You dig where I'm coming from? Or can we have a new thought? Can we step outside of the books for a second and have a new conversation about hair weaves and wigs? Can we have a new conversation about homosexuality? Can we have a new conversation about vegan eating? We doing all right. It's a good day for an exorcism.
347-945-7680. Call in and let's build.
Fear can be a very powerful spirit. Emotions such as self-loathing, jealousy, and depression are fed by fear. Over time, these poisonous emotions can develop into physical illnesses such as cancers, mental illnesses, and even financial poverty. Addictions to destructive behaviors such as drug and alcohol use can also feed the spirit of fear. However, there are cleansing techniques that can be utilized to help starve out stagnant and reluctant spirits. To find out more about these techniques, register for spiritual cleansing at saduluhouse.com/events. Greetings, peace everyone. Welcome to Chief Speaks. I am Kim, one of your co-hosts, and I just want to say welcome back, and I will that everyone's strong has been a progressive and productive one. We will have our insight from Chief Yuya a bit later on in the show, and as usual, we'll go ahead and get started with some announcements. And I just wanted to say that the reason why we do these announcements before each segment is because we do get a lot of new students in daily, and they need to be informed of where to go. And we also still get a lot of calls from regular students or new listeners, I should say, too, on how to get a reading or where to go for a reading or whatever. And I just want to say that the classes are designed to go at your own pace. So this is not necessarily, the Anu spiritual training is not necessarily a hand-holding kind of thing. There is a forum in the class that you can utilize to share ideas and information with other students. This is not, it's like I said, it's designed to kind of go at your own pace. And we get a lot of calls in that, people want to call in and talk about joining the class. And we just don't have the time to address those calls. So if you're interested in joining the class, make sure you familiarize yourself with some of the resources that we offer, like Anu Nation, SaduluHouse.com, Enlightenment and Transformation TV on YouTube. All of those websites are there and videos are there so that you can kind of see who Chief Yuya is and what some of the philosophy of Anu Nation is. And we also offer the free course, the Orisha course. So if you're interested in kind of learning a little bit about the Orisha and to further find out what we do at Anu Nation, what it's all about, make sure you sign up for the free course first and go through the free course before you decide to sign up for the training. A lot of the concepts and things that Chief talks about in the weekly shows that we used to do, Masterminds Monday, Anu Asafo, Thunderground Thursday, Foundational Friday, are all, I wouldn't say prerequisites, but they kind of go along with the Anu spiritual training. So a lot of the things that we cover in the training, you can get a little bit of that in those weekly shows as well. So make sure you utilize all those things. That's the reason why we go over all of these websites, because we still get a lot of people asking, where do I go? Where do I go to get a reading? I'm thinking about signing up for the class. Call me back. I mean, we just really don't have the time to call people back who just want to talk about signing up for the class. Again, we have the free Orisha class first. So if you're thinking about it, again, like I said, check out the free Orisha courses and then, check out all of the other websites. And then, you can make a decision on whether or not you'd like to take the class. And again, there is a forum for the students once you sign up for the class to discuss things. So if you would like to talk to someone else who's in the training about signing up, you can do that as well. And like I said, share ideas, ask questions. You can do all that from the student forum. Okay, so anunation.org is the hub website for the Spiritual Center. And this is where you can go to sign up for the mailing list. So you'll know everything that's going on from month to month with Anu Nation. SaduluHouse.com is the learning ministry of Anu Nation. And this is where you sign up for Orisha, Unlocking Your Inner Power, which is the free course. And then if you'd like to sign up for the Anu Spiritual Training, it is different than the Orisha course. It's a lot more hands-on. There's a lot of work involved, and there are quizzes and things and videos. That is where you would go to sign up for the for the Anu Spiritual Training at SaduluHouse.com. We also have our monthly webinars listed there as well under the events tab. And this month we are covering spiritual cleansing, and that's going to be Monday night. So tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when that webinar is going to take place. And we will not have a repeat of it. It's not going to be given again. For those, if you have that question, you just have to try to catch it. If not, there will be a follow-up book that goes along with that webinar, as well as a course. But those are kind of in development, and it'll take a little bit longer to get to it. But you can go to saduluhouse.com/events to register for that. That's tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it is a live webinar, by the way, so you'll be able to ask any questions that you may have. The Media Center is where you'll find all of the Enlightenment and Transformation shows. And so again, for those of you that are new to the courses and you can't find some of the answers, or you send questions to the wrong inbox about the training, make sure you go back and listen to some of those shows. I guarantee you'll find a lot of the answers in some of those shows. And some of them are even titled that way, so they're not even really that hard to find. But those classes go along with the course as well. It's not just the book Grasping the Root of Divine Power. Okay, so enlightenmentandtransformation.com is the website. Enlightenment and Transformation TV is the YouTube address. All right. We also have Osiris Life monthly services. And this is where you go to sign up for monthly coaching. If you need more one-on-one training with Chief Uya, or need rituals, or you have some matters that are a bit more urgent than normal, and you need monthly guidance, you would go to osirislife.com to sign up for monthly spiritual services and consultations. Okay, so there you have it. Those are some of the websites that we have and where you can go to get some information. Remember to RSVP for spiritual cleansing tomorrow night at 7 p.m. I think the registration shuts down at 12 noon tomorrow. So make sure you get signed up before then. All right. And for those of you that are registered, you will get a link and a password to the webinar about 30 minutes to an hour before it starts. Okay, so I will be emailing that out to you. And thank you for your continued support. All right, so now we're going to take a break for a couple of commercials, and we'll be back with Chief Uya's insight for this strong on humility. Thank you for tuning in.
So self-actualization is actualizing the mission and idea of the soul. In order for new life to come, the old life has to rock. We've realized the self is actually that higher entity, that which controls God. You're supposed to birth yourself into these realities and then kill yourself out of those realities. That's the only escape from the matrix. It's that everything here is dying. Everything here is corrupted. Everything, even your beautiful sunset, is a corruption of the real sun. What is your body to your soul? A vehicle of travel. What are the things that you do that are not for money? So we speak about the independent phenomenon of self-actualization. No rules. I'm going to do what I need to do, but I'm also going to show you the depth of my power. Welcome again. Welcome one and all. Welcome all of you who are tuning in live right now. Those of you who are listening from the archives. Those of you who are listening live from Blog Talk Radio, or those of you who may just be listening to this medium 5-10 years from now. I want to welcome you to this now experience, okay? Knowing that time is not linear. So whenever you tune in is when this is occurring, all right? So I want to thank you for being here right now. And right now we're here together, believe it or not. The spirit projects a long way out. I am Chief Yuya, and you are listening to The Insight for Chief Speaks on High Frequency Radio. I want to give a big power and warrior salute to Yusuf L and the whole High Frequency Radio crew, as well as you're listening to this segment on Enlightenment and Transformation. And as always, I want to give honor and respect and love to my own crew. And you're listening it through however else you're getting it. And again, I'm Chief Yuya, Chief Jegna of the Anu Spiritual Order, the Anu Nation, and the Anu Life Global Ministries, as well as the head instructor of the Sadulu House. And for many of you tuning in and have been steady listeners, you know that starting the Gregorian year of 2016, we started a little different, in terms of how we're giving you the segments. And one of the big differences is you're not seeing a slideshow right now. You're actually seeing me. You're not seeing me. You're seeing an image of me that's being retranslated digitally into whatever the internet feels I'm supposed to look like. But either way, it's a different thing. And a lot of you know, at least those of you who've been around me, I don't like cameras. I don't like to be filmed or photographed. And I don't even really like my voice recorded that much. If I'm doing music, yeah, sure. Instruments, I'd rather speak through that. But yeah. But when you are engaged in a revolution, whether it be a spiritual revolution or a cultural revolution, a social revolution, or financial revolution, you can't just do what you like to do. You have to do what you need to do. All right. So I understand that some people are more visual in their learning, and they can feel what's being said and what's being taught if they have an image in front of them moving around and fingers. And as you guys have probably figured out by now, I'm one who gesticulates a lot whenever I explain things. So, I'm very tactile, so, and for some that helps them to see the big fingers moving all over the place. But in any event, so last month we dealt with the concepts of success and progress, right? And I wanted to start off 2016 with that, so that we could set some definitive goals, some better goals for the year, Gregorian year, and we could kind of see what our standards are, what our standards maybe need to be, if we're actually progressing along successfully or if we're regressing along. But really just to get a more clear and more defined image and shot of what it is that we really would like to do and what it is that we really want to do. So I wanted to start off with that particular theme. All right. So now for this month, we're dealing with the theme of humility. Maybe not one of the more fun themes that some of you really want to talk about and deal with, but it's necessary. After we set our goals and after we set our trajectory, then we then after that have to determine is what we're doing, is it actually relevant? Okay. And that's what humility provides. A lot of times people confuse humility with meekness. And sometimes it's not a confusion. Sometimes the strengths that be, I don't like to call them the powers that be. You have the power. They just have the strength to influence you to give them your power. It's a theocracy. But sometimes the strengths that be will tell you that humility is meekness. Humility is like bowing down to a power greater than yourself. You know, people really get off on that one. You know, you got to bow down to something greater to yourself. What's greater than me? Right? Now, that's a relative question. What's greater than me? Well, how do we define greatness? See, that's where it gets funny. You say, well, a mountain's greater than me. Mountain can't ride a bike. Maybe I'm greater because I can ride a bicycle. You know, we say, well, God is greater than you. Prove it. Right? And I know people are scared when you say things like that. And which God are we talking about? You know, the sky is greater than you. The sky can't touch the earth like I can. The sky can't swim underwater as long as I can. You know, and what is the sky really? You know, is this the sky? Or is this the sky up here? Or is this the sky up here? Like, how high do we have to go for it to actually be sky? Because if I'm laying on the ground, wouldn't sky be maybe a foot above me? Or 2 feet above me? Or 3 feet above me? Wouldn't that be the sky? So you see, some of the terms that we use and the concepts are not necessarily relative to what it is that we want to get accomplished, right? That's where humility comes in, believe it or not. Humility is self-awareness. That's what it really is. You know, it's not just meekness. It's not just someone punching you in the chin and you turn the other chin, you know, turn the other cheek, boom, boom. You know, that's not necessarily humility. In fact, it's not humility at all. I don't even want to say necessarily. It's not humility at all. Humility is our connection, or the quality or the value of our connection with the earth chakra, the earth element, the earth mothers. That's what humility is. Okay. And when you have that connection, or you have that awareness, okay, and you're conducting that earth vibration, you come into the space that we like to refer to as a humble space. You know, you become what's referred to as a humble person, right? Now, how do we know that? Well, one of the things that you hear a lot of times with humility, you're told that humility requires you to bow, right? Humility requires you to abase yourself. And abasing yourself takes you again down to the earth element. There's a truism to that, okay? There's a breaking of your ability to non-conform, okay? In our sacred Odu, we have the Odu Ireti Meiji, right? And Ireti Meiji, you have light, dark, light, right? So in Ireti Meiji, we have this idea of an explosion of energy that comes out, which creates non-conformity. This is an individual who marches to the beat of their own drum, right? And Shango is very present in this particular Odu. There's a lot of fire there, right? But each Odu has a converse energy, and the converse of Irete Meiji is Otura Meiji, okay? And Otura Meiji, very, very beautiful and very peaceful. It's actually the most peaceful Odu out of all of them. In Otura Meiji, you have light, dark, light, light, right? As opposed to Irete Meiji's light, dark, light, right? So it's the converse in many senses. But with Otura Meiji, where you have Oshun is very present there, right? You have this concept of leadership, right? In fact, responsible spiritual leadership. But Otura Meiji represents, to some degree, the conformity and the peacefulness that comes through conformity, right? Well, that connection with that earth element the different stories and remedies and that pataki, and what that Odu introduces us to, tells us this. Well, it's that stooping, like the admonition often in Irete Meiji is you have to be humble in order to fix this situation, or as we say, you have to stoop to conquer. Well, Otura Meiji already has that, but it's still an Odu of leadership. You would think the non-conformist would be the leader, but Otura Meiji connects you with that earth element, right? And through that earth element, you develop a sense of what your people actually need. You develop a sense of what you actually need, right? So you have this idea of humble or humility, and humble coming from hummus or humus. And hummus or humus, like the hummus you eat, it means earth, right? You have, and it's similar, you have humu, hummus, you have homo. And a lot of people will connect that to the Hebraic Adama. And Adama is where you get Adam, right? And Adama means red clay or red earth. Again, taking you to the idea that man, Memph Afnun, woman, man, child, being born from the clay. Even in the Akkadian myths, and Akkadians, very interesting people to study if you ever feel like it. But if you ever watched the movie The Scorpion King, right, with Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, this guy with the eyebrow, I think his name is Dwayne Johnson. And then they did a part 2 where he was like younger. They used a different actor, but he was an Akkadian. They even called him an Akkadian throughout the movie. He was a real person. The Scorpion King, the Akkadian are real people. They have their own myths, but it's said that they were created. Their creation myth is very similar. I like to study different creation myths. You see very interesting congruencies, but their creation myth was it was Marduk, and Marduk threw stones. And Marduk took the clay. He killed, I think it was Xingyu or Xingwu, but he killed him, and he took his blood and mixed it with the clay, and he created man. And then you have in Sumerian myth, you have a male entity who was throwing rocks over his shoulder, and he made men, and a female entity was throwing rocks over her shoulder, and she made women. Again, this idea of creation coming from the earth, though, right? So when we think about abasement, or we think about humility, right, or we think about being humble, what it does is it connects you to the earth chakra. And by connecting to the earth chakra, you become new in your creation again. Like a newborn baby. Because what is one of the significance of a baby? Well, they're lower than everybody else. They see things you don't see. And sometimes that's the fear. Sometimes that's the danger. Like, you'll leave things on your floor that you didn't even notice, and next thing you know, but they put everything in their mouth. What is that in your mouth? And oh, your old earring, or your ring, your wedding ring. I lost that, because they have the ability to see detail that we don't see because they're connected to that earth chakra, which allows them a greater sense of sensitivity, I should say, to vibes. You've heard me say this a lot of times. I mean, children are excellent litmus tests. If they don't like someone as babies, the person is usually a messed up person. I mean, bottom line, if you hand them to someone and they start crying, and there's certain people they just like to go to, a lot of times it either means that that person and your child have the same type of sickness, or the person innately is a pretty good person. All right. And I know that's a rarity nowadays. We just don't really find that many like good people around. They're around though. They're out there. You gotta dig a little bit, but just people who just internally are just good. They don't have agenda. They're not selfish and going on and on. And what that is that's humility. People who are still really grounded and connected to that earth chakra. For years, I remember I went through a lot of different phases with just really connecting with the floor and the ground and the earth. And I mean, for many years, I slept on the floor, right? Years slept on. I remember when I sold I had a really expensive bedroom set, and it was beautiful. It was a beautiful bedroom set I had, and one day looking at it, and I was just like, it's too much stuff in my bedroom. It's too much, you know. Got rid of everything. I sold it for nothing, and just slept on the floor and loved it. I did that for, I can't count how many, a lot of years. In fact, I'm sleeping on the floor now. I just remembered, you know. Yeah, I'm back on the floor again. I find myself always going through these cycles where I get rid of beds like every 2 years. You know, I'm going back on the floor. And sometimes it's because I need that grounding, you know, just like sometimes we need to be around family to grind us. To ground us. And you know, sometimes they do grind us, but to ground us and remind us of things. So there's a lot of things going on with Anu right now. Like there's a lot of ministerial work. And to minister just means to serve. As soon as someone says that they're a minister, it doesn't mean that they're, you don't immediately have to connect them to something that's Catholic or Protestant or anything like that. To minister is just to serve. What I'm doing right now is a ministry, okay? I'm serving. So I find that when I get involved in a lot of different components of the ministry, you know, the building, the Africa Initiative, the tech centers that I'm building, and of course these shows, changing the show format, expanding on the classes, doing new classes, helping with the webinars, Alpha Omega store, getting, you know, supplies that I like and value and can stand behind, and testing them and all that stuff. And there's more. I mean, I mentioned maybe a tenth of what's actually going on. I'm not going to say too much, you know. But I find that all over the place, then I want to ground again. So then around those times when I'm making a lot of moves, I'll look at the bed with disdain again. I don't need you. Get out of it, you know, and I'll get rid of my bed or move it into another room or something like that. But it's that humbling up. And that's needed, because as you start to do things, sometimes you do start to kind of feel yourself a little bit like, yeah, we're doing it. You know, you start to feel those markers and those signs of success, and those signs of success will have you thinking that you've arrived. And in that thinking that you've arrived, you travel further away from the original intent of your creation, the original value, the original purpose, and the talents that you came with. Because sometimes you start confusing your gifts and the value of your gifts, and you mistake that for the value of the giver. You know, we see that all the time. You know, we'll do affirmations and rituals for things. It could be a partner, or it could be a vehicle, or it could be a job. And then after we get the job, or we get the partner, or we get the vehicle, we leave the ritual alone. So we don't value the energies and the forces and the culture that gave the gift. We just value the gift. So then what happens? Every single time, the culture says, all right. Or the spirits say, no problem. This isn't the Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away. No, we're not dealing with that paradigm. I mean, even the Bible doesn't say that. Job said that, and people think that because Job said that was the spiritual law, but it wasn't. You know, the divine gave, and Satan or human thought took away. That's how it worked, you know. And that's because of a lack of humility, right? When we start to leave the earth and we start to leave the original creation, we start to believe that all of the things that we've produced and we've created have gone without any type of orchestration. Like I said, one of the most disrespectful things is to run into somebody you haven't seen in a long time and say, hey, it's funny I'm seeing you. That's weird. That's odd. Meanwhile, you got your ancestors in the background, like doing overtime, you know, trying to make sure you walk down certain streets and you wear certain colors so you could be spotted. And this doesn't work on this day, so you got to go another day. And, oh, you forgot your watch or your phone in the house, so you got to go run back. Just so it could be timed just right. So, boom, the angles can coincide and you can have those divine coincidences where certain things happen. You see certain things, you meet certain people, you know. That happened the other day. I was talking to someone and I was doing some work, right? And I was fixing a tire for someone, and they was like, well, I got a bottle of what's this, the tire flat, you spray anything. And I was like, all right, I normally don't use that, but they were like, well, my spare is shot. So I said, okay. So it was freezing outside, so I was like, don't worry, I'll have you sit in the car. It's kind of cold. I was feeling all right, so I said, I'll do it. Helped them with the flat, and while I'm out there, of course, the stuff didn't work. So I'm like, how long you had this thing? Like aerosol doesn't last forever. So I said, tell you what, I'll take the spare. I'm gonna get the spare fixed. I'll patch it, or just take it. I have some patches at my house. I'll patch it. Just sit here, keep the engine running, stay warm, or you come back to my house. Either way, it's up to you. So they stayed in the car, and I went to go get I went to patch the tire, right? So I got the tire off the rim. I'm patching it. And someone comes by who I haven't seen in a while. And it was cold outside at this point. And he started talking to me about some things. We were just asking me, hey, how's business and how's this and that. And I guess all this time, I've known him for a couple of years now. He actually thought I was a lot older than him. And we found out that we're actually the same exact age. So he was like, what exactly do you do again? Because it seems like you're doing a lot, and you're doing okay. And he's a business owner as well. And long story short, and he was one of those like prodigy business owners. He was like, yeah, I was the youngest this in town and this and that and that. And I had a similar story, and he started talking about, when I shared some of the things I did, he said, man, that's where I want to be. Like, you're helping people, you're doing things and you're making a difference. And I was like, listen, we're at the perfect age for it now. Like, I was out there with some of my youth actually at the time. Well, they were supposed to be helping, but they were having a WWE wrestling match. So they're over there fighting and making car alarms go off while I'm trying to patch his tire. So I'm getting agitated thinking about that's what you do, though. You take you there. So, I was explaining to him, I said, we're at the perfect age to do a lot of this work because we're still striving. You still have that humility of the aspiration still in you. Whereas like, I'm still not there yet, but we're young enough that, like I said, I was pointing to my youth. I said, they still try to borrow my boots and my jackets and like, they won't leave me alone. Oh, Baba, let me get those boots and Baba, And even though I'm always like, no, keep your funky feet out of my shoes. But at the same time, and internally, I'm like, okay, I'm not wearing dad clothes yet. It's coming. I know that you can't avoid it. But I'm like, I don't have dad gear yet, So teenagers still want to borrow my stuff. And I remember when I was young, and waiting till my father left for work and then going back and getting some of his stuff because he had some stuff that was stylish. And then I remember when it was like, I'm good. Yeah, I'd rather just wear the same shirt twice this week than go in your closet at this point, So, because, but anyway, so I said, we're at that age where we can relate to the youth. We still can make them laugh or engage with them. But then also elders look at us and have some respect. We're at that age now. So I said, you're at the perfect age to choose if you want to service the elders and the youth, or pick one and they'll both listen to you. So as we were talking, we got into a lot of different things, and I gave him some advice, and he's coming from more of a Christian paradigm. So I was like, listen, start a prayer line, and lo and behold, he had a prayer line at one point. He was like, I was doing something similar. And he said, I had people from like all over the world calling in, and then it started getting bigger and bigger, and it got out of hand. And I said, yeah, you lost your humility. You lost your connection to the earth, to the ground, knowing what the people actually needed. You got probably more into the actual movement. And this is where I talked about when you put the movement before the cause, you always fail every time. The cause has to come first. What are we here to do?
always start there, always end there. And then, go there and work backwards. So when you go there and you work backwards, everything that you're going to do up until that point is going to line up or aim and work towards what it is that you said that you came to do. So the idea of humility, like I said, even when we take it in word form, we have humus or hummus and it's a bit of a stretch because it's the same hume root, but that hume root may not necessarily be related to the same hume root in human, because human is more like hue and then man actually being the root. But again, through word sound and word vibration, you can learn a lot. You can learn the connected things, because it goes beyond sometimes etymology, and you have to feel the spiritual resource and value in certain things. And when you have words that come from like Latin, you're dealing with the romantic language, these are temple languages. If it's straight English, then it's empty. There's nothing there. So the coding is pretty easy because it is whatever it is, right? But you look at like the idea of human or hume or humble, right? What you have there is like the air vibration, the wind coming into the earth, right? Coming into a closed space. Now, how do we know? And one of the reasons I know a lot of this about the words and this part that I'm getting ready to teach is because of the way I speak. I tend to speak. I'm one of those people who speak through my teeth. All right. And if you listen, I'm not the only one. Dry snitch time. Listen to Sister Felicia. Listen to Sister Kim. All three of us speak through our teeth. Okay. I think Sister Felicia and I have it a little worse, but it's because we both have huge teeth. So we tend to talk like this. All right. So, we say a lot of things like this, and, when you're really thinking about it, and just, sometimes it's like, man, these teeth are so big, you don't even feel like opening up the mouth. So you just be like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's just too much, So, but when you talk like that, you get an understanding of the wind movements of different words and letters, because certain things you can't say with your teeth. For instance, the letter B. He. See what happens? I have to close my mouth to say B. I have to say B. There's no other way to do it. E. I just keep saying E. You see? So that gives us a clue to something. M is another one. You can't say M without closing down. You can say N, but you can't say M. See what happens? I gotta close down. So just like words like Om. Oh. Well, to get that M, I gotta close. Om. You see that? So when we look at the word like humble, right? Ha. Ba. You see what happens? So we have the air of the who, representing to listen, right? Who. Whenever you see that word who, but who also means bright, right? Or created, right? But anyway, you have the bright, the light, or the wind of who or ha. So even if we take the root, and we know the root of humble or humility being that hum, the same hum or whom that we have in the word exhum. And exhum means what? To bring out of the darkness into light. So we're taking what was in the earth and taking it out. You have hummus, right? And hummus is even, I know you're saying, well, I eat hummus. Yeah, you got that hummus. That's one hummus. But then you also have like the form of fertilizer that we use. We call hummus or humus. And that is like a more, it's not like composting, because compost is, you can break it up, everything. But hummus is like a more solid, corrupted piece of earth. Very, very powerful, very good to use as fertilizer for those of you who are into agriculture. You already know what it is. But the word itself means earth. But it also connects us with homo, connects us with humo. So we have this, and again in the Hebraic, the Adamah, right? Or which many of you know as Adam. Or we could take that and say, well, that's atom, right? Or atumare. I know we can keep going. There's a lot here. Because we're dealing with elementals. So we can go really far with that. But the idea of humility, or the idea of humble, and keep in mind that humble is not just a state of being. Humble is actually a verb too. You know, there's a sister, I used to always say that with a couple sisters. Well, they were best friends, so of course they're going to have similar jargon. But they would always say to their children, humble yourself. You know, you need to humble. You need to humble. And they're Rasta sisters. You need to humble. And because humble is actually a verb. So humble is the act of abasing. If you tell somebody, go humble, you know. But ultimately what you find is that there's a closing, there's a stopping of the energy. There's a resting, right? So humble, homo, then a releasing of it again, you see. So even in looking at the shapes that your aperture may take on when you're saying certain words, and the forms that your consonants has to take, or the movements of your tongue when you're saying certain words, gives you clues as to what's actually being said there, you see, or the process, the energetic process that's occurring inside of you and within you when you're engaged in certain things. So we understand that humility, or to humble, is an act of taking what is in the air and condensing it down to something solid again.
All right, so there you have it. Thank you, Chief Yuya, for that insight. And that's actually a part of, it's going to be a 2-part series on humility. As you know, that's the theme for the month, but there is more to that particular session that he did. So I'll give you the other half of that next strong. So you'll have a little time to kind of let this lesson sit for a minute and see if you can understand some of the concepts that were presented. Again, I want to make sure you all know about the spiritual cleansing webinar coming up tomorrow. Again, it's tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You still have time to register. Just go to saduluhouse.com/events, and all the information that you need to get registered is there. And you can go ahead and register for the other webinars as well if you see something there that you'd like to get more information on. So until next strong, I just want to say thank you all for tuning in, and thank you for your continued support, and have a wonderful day. Peace. Sadulu House Spiritual Center would like to invite you to join our learning community by encouraging you to sign up for our monthly webinars. Our webinars offer live interactive instruction designed to help empower you in your spiritual evolution and ritual work. The webinars we provide are purposed to help you dive deeper into the concepts and calculations of the Chief Jegna of Anu Nation, Haru Yuya Asan Anu, through the decoding and exploration of sound, symbol, ancient and contemporary text, and various other tools used to invoke a state of highest awareness. We are able to abandon the constrictions of dead thought to travel to higher states of awareness, which is our rightful designation. To view our list of webinars, go to saduluhouse.com/events. Topics for 2016 include meditation, spiritual cleansing, astral projection, chakras, crystals, water magic, candle magic, the third eye, animal totems, dreams, and sex magic. Remember, go to saduluhouse.com/events to register.